everybody, it's Amy and Maggie from ThinkerThemer.
Hello.
Now, it's been a little while because we've been working on a new studio. We moved house about a year ago, and so we've been without a studio, but as you can see, we've got it set up, not very well organized right now, but it is time for us to do our top 10 most anticipated titles of Essen. We unfortunately cannot make it to Essen this year. We're hoping to get back there in 2026. But wow, there are so many great games.
There were a lot of titles to go through. Yes.
About over 1,400. That is so many titles to look
eyeballs
through.
are tired of
Yes.
a lot of reading, a lot of watching, a lot of perusing. And
I have read so many rule books of games that didn't make it to this list, but at least it's a good way to keep up to date with what's happening.
Yeah.
This year, so many titles, heavy, light. In fact, I probably could have made a top 10 heavy, top 10 light, but I've forced myself to think about all occasions, so my list is a real mix.
Yeah, same. I think mine is probably, well, we'll see. No spoilers.
No spoilers. I don't think there's much crossover. So Maggie and I did not compare notes until right before hitting record, and there's only 2 crossovers. So we're going to talk to you about a lot of games. So let's get into it.
Now, before we get into the actual list, I just want to do one quick honorable mention for one game that we have actually played, because again, that's what we should say. All of the games that are featured on our list are games that we haven't played. So if we've already featured it or covered it, it's actually, we'll put a link in the description of all of the different things that we may have done run-throughs of or reviews, so that you have a bit of an idea of like, oh yeah, these are things that are there, but those are not going to make it into the list. Now this one, we have had a chance to play. I've had a chance to play it quite a lot. I quite enjoyed, spoiler alert, but we haven't covered content over it yet, and it will be available. So I just kind of want to flag that there. The game is Jisogi Anime Studio Tycoon, which is all about running an anime studio, and it is based on the real life experience of someone who has worked in anime studios in Japan, and it was actually illustrated by a whole range of anime artists. So it's just an incredibly thematic and just kind of cool experience. So keep an eye out for, hopefully we'll get to put our video out before Essen to see if it might be something that you might want to check out. All right, so now without further ado, my number 10 is a game called Urban Sketchers by Jorge Tabanera Redondo, who you will be hearing featured quite a bit, because Jorge is the designer of this game, but is also the illustrator, and is also the illustrator of many other games that are actually on this list.
On your list?
On this list. I think even some of our crossovers were illustrated by Jorge.
Look at you doing your research. I'm not even sure if I cross-referenced all the illustrators.
Well,
Impressive.
it was one of those like little kind of beautiful mind blowing going, wait a second, and you're here and here and here. You may be very quickly becoming one of my favorite, or in the list of favorite illustrators. So you may actually know Jorge's work from Cities. So
yes,
the Phil Walker Harding title that was in last year. And also, what are some of the other Barrios, which we have, which was also designed, I believe, by Jorge, but we haven't had a chance to play it yet.
No, but you bought it specifically for the artwork, so all the pieces are coming
from a distance. I just clocked the artwork, and I'm like, what is that? I need to see it up close. And apparently, the game is also really good. What else? Conservas. You're in Conservas?
I do love the art in Conservas.
Yes. And I won't spoil because there's some that are in the list.
Okay, tell us about your number 10.
Anyway, so Urban Sketchers. So this is the background of, this is the illustrator that has designed a game about being a sketcher of urban landscapes, traveling the world and capturing that. This is also, sort of sidebar, one of my dreams. I can't draw to save my life, and Amy can vouch to this. I will do the worst stick figures, but I have this dream of like being able to get to a point where I can do those sort of rough, cool sketches like in the artwork of this game, and that are just like capturing a scene and then just a bit of watercolor. So this is exactly what you're doing in this game. You are this artist that I am not yet. Look, maybe one day.
I love you. You have many other talents. Drawing is not one of them. If you've ever had the hilarious opportunity to play a game like Telestrations or anything at all that involves drawing with Maggie, I'm sure there are a few people watching that have had the opportunity.
You'll get the privilege of seeing the talent,
I think now
or
people
lack of.
will want to play with you just to find out how interesting it is.
Anyways, so in this game, it's very much one of those like dice drafting and dice rice worker placement type games where you're actually trying to collect, you're essentially creating sketches. And the more sketches you create and you publish, you're going to make money, which will allow you to travel further and then be able to access, new locations. It's very much the kind of like symbol matching, but also all the individual cards of the things that you're capturing are just so beautiful that I'm like, I have to try this, particularly from a person that is now becoming one of my favorite sketchers and illustrators. So that is Urban Sketchers.
Okay, so my number 10 for all of the heavy Euros that are coming out at Essen this year, I thought I'd start with a really light title.
Gonna build your way up?
Yeah, build my way up. No, it's going to go up and down a little bit throughout my list, but this is one I would definitely pick up. It is the new Oink title, Pick and Packers. And this is one that probably didn't make your list because you're not as into dexterity games, and it is a dexterity title, but this one is so beautiful. So the whole thing with this game is you are delivering gifts, so it's perfectly timed for the holiday season. In fact, that's why I'd be buying it, and I'd probably be buying a couple of copies just to gift to people because it just feels like one of those games that's going to bring people together over the holidays. But essentially, you are carrying a drone, and the way you're moving this drone around is by holding it on one side, and someone else around the table has to put their finger on the other side of the drone.
Yeah.
And then you're going to be driving around to different locations and stacking little different gifts on top of one another, and then having to lift it up and basically playing a literal pick up and deliver game, while other people around the table are kind of trying to guess how far you'll be able to make it.
Okay.
So it's just a silly little filler, but I really liked the ink title, Drapolta.
Oink title. Yeah.
What did I say?
You said ink.
Ink again.
You missed it at the start. Oink.
Oink.
Or ink. Oink.
Ink and Pick and Packers. There's too many. It's like a tongue twister here. Sorry, the Oink title, Drapolta.
Yeah,
that
that's
was
the one dexterity that I'll be like, yeah, okay, let's do that.
Yeah, so if you haven't played that and you see that there, so I'll grab that. But I just thought this one is so beautifully themed just for the holiday season. So I wouldn't be able to deny it. I would pick up a copy of that. That is my number 10 Pick and Packers.
Okay, so my number 9 is a game called Tenby, which was designed by Benji Talbot and illustrated also by Benji Talbot. And it was actually picked up by Mighty Boards, which is what kind of put it on the radar for me, because I really tend to, the team at Mighty Boards have quite there's actually like professors of game design in there, so, and they're really lovely, like, there's
nice people.
They're really, really lovely as a team and as a people. So I really connect sometimes with like some of the designs and their thinking of what attracts them to a game. So the fact that they were like, hey, this, we need to take this on, and it makes me go, wait a second, what's in here? Apparently it's a really, really satisfying game where Tenby is based on the town of Tenby in Wales, and so you're going to be using cards that then represent different buildings that you're going to be constructing. You're essentially constructing this really charming, picturesque little town, and it's sort of in the style of like Santa Monica, or even like it sort of reminded me of a little bit of Castle Combo, in that as you're kind of building the town and you're putting the buildings, each building will have a different scoring condition, and it's sort of based on adjacencies and the things that are kind of around it. So apparently it's quite satisfying as an experience, but also has a really good solo mode. So I'm very intrigued, and it just looks really charming and pretty kind of quick to get to the table. So yeah, that's why I'm very intrigued. So that's my number 9, Tenby.
Okay, now as promised, we're going to be riding the waves of heaviness and lightness in my list. My number 9 is a game called Recall. Now, a lot of people are going to have this on their list to buy already, I think, because this is the much awaited spiritual sequel to the game Revive. Now, we do own Revive, might be able to see it on our shelves behind us, but Revive is a game that I appreciate mechanically, but it never really hooked me. I wasn't really like, ooh, this is going straight into my top 10. It was just like, oh, okay, I can appreciate why people love this game so much.
I've a lot of very passioned lovers of the game.
Very
a lot of people
passionate.
are very, like, try to convince me that, no, like, you have to try this, very thematic. And I was like, wait, I wouldn't call it, like, it wasn't super good. I enjoyed it, but it, again, similar to you.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like, I must recommend that this has to be in my,
But anyway, so the artwork is by the same artist. And actually in this game and in the previous game, Revive, it's not really an art style that attracts me. And it's a little bit dark and moody, which gives me a bit of a like dungeony vibe combined with the different factions that's like a little too fantasy for my taste. But this one does look interesting. Some of the mechanics have really drawn me in. And another reason why this made my top 10 is it's already had some pretty good reviews. So I know there's a lot of hype out there for this this game, but our friends Johannes and Sunniva from Board Game Ramblings really love the game, and I know they were a bit involved in the play testing as well. And then Rado loved the game as well. And it's even as reviewers, it's hard not to be like, ooh, because you respect these people and you hear their opinion. And so that made me more interested just to read the rule book. And actually, when I was reading about it, I really liked some of the elements in there. So in case you haven't seen, there's these little key cards or these little keys that slot into your player board. And that's how you're going to be choosing what type of action you're taking. And just like that classic using all your workers, you can also recall them all in order to get them all back. But throughout the course of the game, you're going to be able to upgrade the actions that they relate to. So you're going to be trying to do that. There's this exploration part of the puzzle where you're going out there to find different artifacts, I believe, and to build buildings and all sorts of classic Euro things like that, as well as 3 tracks that are going to give you more and more powerful finds. So again, very, very classic Euro. And I like all of these things. Are any of them particularly new? I don't think so, but I do think there's an interesting combination going on here. And one thing that I was super intrigued about is this game has a digital companion app. And I checked it out. So I did scan the QR code. And what's really fascinating is you start with a bit of an asymmetric setup in this game. In the app, you're able to fill in, the starting point and then what you collect along the way. And I believe at the end of the game, you can then save your ancient tribe, and then it becomes a tribe that other players can discover when they're playing the game.
That's cool. Like somewhere else in the world, like on a different player.
Exactly. Some
cool.
other players, because at the end of the tracks, I think you get to discover an ancient tribe, and if you choose to, you can use the app to help reveal what that is. Yeah. And so sometimes it's going to be a saved one that someone else actually created.
Like an actual one from somewhere else.
Yeah, so there's like this meta thing going on. Yeah. So I don't know. I thought that was kind of cool as well. So I'm really intrigued to give this one a go. It is my number 9 recall.
Okay, so my number 8 is the game I Made You a Mixtape by Mike DeLizio and Dan Hughes. Not Mike DeLizio being the awesome contributor from the Dice Tower, who have a lot of similar tastes with, particularly in the solo. I feel like he's very much a themer.
He's definitely a
like
themer
myself, and a lot of times, a lot of the stuff that like quirky titles and stuff that he's attracted. I'm like, yeah, me too. So there's already that sort of synergy and simpatico there. I don't know if I've used that word correctly. Anyways, and Dan Hughes, you may know from Cora Quest, so it's the designer of Cora Quest. And so together they have created this I Made You a Mixtape, which is, I think, one of the most awesome themes that I can think of, because, well, now it's probably like I made you a playlist, which which I actually did make Amy a couple of playlists when we were first kind of courting.
Back in the day. 14 years ago, when I was like trying to like, hey, and even when I would do something bad and then you'd be mad at me. I'm when's
like,
the last time you made me a playlist?
I don't know, I haven't done anything bad recently, so I haven't had to. That is not true. So in this game, you are actually like old school creating a mixtape, which I did back in the day, where you have a cassette tape and you're like trying to time the radio to grab the like hit record as the song, not just when it starts, because you'd have the DJ kind of talking right up until the lyrics kick in, so you're this sort of like ooh, and trying to like stop it right before like the radio like ads
and you'd have to
in.
just sit there all night like ooh, record.
It's like, will it come out? Like, will the song come on? It was like, it has to come on. So so this is essentially recreating that. And so you have a bit of the layout is like a boombox where you have like your A and B areas, where you have two areas where your cassettes will go, and then it's an iSplit you choose, where you have all sorts of different cassette tapes which have different genres and different actual songs that I can already see. I'm going to be like, oh yeah, and then like start singing.
What a banger!
Like, oh, I remember this. So you're doing the iSplit you choose, split them up in whatever way you kind of want, and then the other person gets to decide, okay, I'll take this, and you are left with this other one, and then you're having to allocate them to like the left or the right side, and depending on where you put them, there's also going to be this sort of central balance dial that you're going to be moving that will end up either giving you like either additional points, or it can kind of go into the negatives, and then you're also trying to create that balance between the two sides and the different tapes and songs that you're recording. But also they have this flow where you're also trying to match this sort of loose bit of the tape that is inside. Which again, the younger people will be like, well, what's loose? And then you would have to like, you would have to put a pencil in it and like sort of spin it, and like, you missed out on, a great
quality audio.
Yeah. So yeah, this tape sometime would come off, and so you're trying to also match as you're putting the cards, the cassette tapes down. You're trying to see how many of them match, and the more, so that represents the flow of the songs together. The more of them match, then the more points you'll get, and then it's going to be this whole thing of the sets of genres that you get. So I'm just very much attracted to this, just from a theme point of view, and it's something that I'm not usually keen into, into the sort of I split you choose as a mechanic, but I can see how it would be fun or interesting.
Yeah, that I cut you choose thing. It just, Monique from Before You Play would say, if Hannah Makoji can't win you over, then maybe the mechanic can never win you over, because her and I always talk about that game.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, that's the reason for me why it didn't make my list. But I can see it's going to be very thematic. I think,
I'm very, I'm sort of just looking forward to that experience of that, hitting the table and having all that banter that'll generate. So that is my number 8, I Made You a Mixtape.
Now, my number 8 is not a trick-taking game. We're just going to put that out first and foremost.
I mean, that's an odd way to lead.
Because I only have one trick-taking game on this list, even though there are a lot coming out. But, we were just at PAX Australia, and someone jokingly said we should change our channel name from ThinkerThemer to, like, Tricker-Taker.
Yeah.
Because we've been covering so many trick-taking games on the channel. And a few people have mentioned that. We do love them, but I recognize that not everybody does. And the reason why I'm starting my number 8, though, this way is because the designer is Gionil. Now, Gionil is a Korean designer who is quite famous for trick-taking and shedding games, mostly trick-taking. Jekyll vs. Hyde, recently The Yellow House, which a lot of people loved. Odyssey from Tokyo Game Market, where we, at the most recent Tokyo Game Market. So a lot of different titles like that. Now, this one came onto my radar a little bit later when I was looking at the list. It's called Orbiter. And Orbiter reminded me so much of a game that Gionil did called Ptolemy. So Ptolemy was a planet-based shedding game where you're obviously trying to get rid of your cards, but it had this like planet scale thing that was really super interesting. I actually really like that game, so seek that out if you can find that 2-player game. But this one looked a lot like that because it has this little rondelle system. I love a rondelle, but it has this little same planet-based system. And what you're going to be doing is you're going to be playing cards out of your hand in order to shift the planets, and then the planet which is higher, the one that you moved or the one that your opponent moved, it's only a 2-player game, that person is going to be able to keep all the cards. And then you're tallying the cards in front of you for the different planets. And what makes this interesting, it's not trick-taking, it's not shedding, but it's a hand management game because all of your cards are in fixed positions. Now, that's not new, so just like Scout, you cannot move the cards in your hand. But what is really interesting is the final scoring, because you are either going to be winning all these cards and adding them to your tableau. Your opponent isn't adding them to their tableau. At the end of the game, for each planet, the way it scores is you will score the number of, if you had the most in that planet, you will score the number of points according to the number of cards your opponent has in that planet. So it's got that really nice, like, okay, well, I need you to win some because I want to beat you by only the tiniest margin so that I get the most points. So I think that's really cool. It seems like a really straightforward game, and it has beautiful artwork. And I'm a big fan of Gionil, and every time they put out a game, I wanna try it. So that is why it's not a trick taker, but it's my number 8 Orbiter.
So my number 7 is the game Kingdom Crossing, which is based on it sort of became a bit of a math problem. I'm gonna have to reference what it is called, the 7 Bridges of Koningsberg, where it was this town where they had these 7 bridges, and they were like, okay, can you actually create a circuit where you cross them all and not ever have to backtrack? And spoiler alert, the short answer was no, you can't. Like, it's just the way that they're positioned. It just, you will never be able to just complete all of them. So this was sort of inspired, so this game is inspired by that. So you are trying to help the queen build a bridge, and you have all these other bridges that are connecting the different sections of the board. Ultimately, you're going to be trying to move through, and as you move through, you're kind of leaving one of your tokens behind so that you can't backtrack. So you can only ever move past a bridge once. And so as you're going through, there seems to be, there's this element of like you're kind of recruiting artisans and different kind of, I believe, like resources and things like that. And you're creating also a bit of a tableau for yourself, which I think then is going to help you level up and obviously become more powerful with some of the actions that you take. But at the same time, the other thing that's going to be happening is because you can't really backtrack, a lot of the game seems to be around the timing and almost like programming in your mind going, okay, if I'm going to go there and I know that I'm not going to be able to kind of potentially go there again, do I have the things that I need to take the actions that I can take over there? But then also there's this element of, in the meantime, one of the other players may go there and take the action that you were going to take. And so you're like, I'm going to have to pivot. And so I feel like it's going to be fairly crunchy in that sense, where you're going to be constantly trying to map out a pathway. And this was actually over at PAX, Stella and Tarrant from Meeple University had it splayed out on the table, and they were kind of having a game of it, and they were like, you would love this. So I'm like, so it's apparently called point salady as well. And so it just has a lot of those elements of, and it looks really cute as well. The artwork is quite appealing to me. So it's got a lot of those elements that I tend to enjoy. So for that reason, it is my number 7, Kingdom Crossing.
Now, my number 7 is actually higher in Maggie's list, so I will wait until you talk about it.
All right, so we'll go into my number 6, and my number 6 is the game Formidable Farm by Friedman Fries, who loves to obviously do like F-sounding or F-starting games, or double F if possible, like Formidable Farm. And so obviously farming immediately caught my attention.
I saw this on the list and I was like, that's 100% going to be on Maggie's list.
I love, I really connect a lot of times with Friedman Fries designs because they can be really quirky and like really clever. And so, so I was kind of looking into this, and even like the illustrations are always like a little bit kind of kooky or quirky. And in this game, you're essentially trying to fulfill the wishes of the villagers by having different, like you're trying to get different crops, and you're going to be trading resources and have, sort of agricultural type resources. And then it's ultimately a race to try and complete all of your trade, like your trade cards. So there also seems to be this element of trying to sort of at the start of the round decide how many trade cards you're going to commit to. But at that point, you don't really know what the villagers are going to want. So you're not necessarily going to know what you're going to be able to trade with to get other resources. So I'm just intrigued. It looks quirky. It looks fairly easy to kind of get in and out.
I love a race too.
Yeah, and the race type games tend to do really well with us because it just adds that element of like, so that is why it's my number 6, Formidable Farm.
Okay, so my number 6 is a game that looks so pretty on the outside, but then seems like it's going to be really crunchy and brain melty.
I think I know what this
It
is.
is Whispering Woods. Now, this game has a beautiful cover, and I was like, wow, that looks super pretty. I want to check that out. But then, interestingly, on the inside, it's not as beautiful as what you might expect, but the puzzle that lays underneath seems super crunchy. It is a tile drafting game where you're simply going to be taking these hex-shaped tiles and placing them down in front of you, just like classic everything in board gaming.
Classic everything.
Classic everything. But in this game, you are trying to connect different colors together in order to fulfill a pattern requirement. So it might be like red, red, yellow, green. And once you have that pattern, you're going to be dragging your little creature. I think it's a fox, or maybe everyone has a different creature. But you're going to be dragging it along the tiles. And that's great, you've completed that. But the tile that you land on then flips over and becomes another sequence. So it has another goal on it. And from there, you can then trace out that next goal and then flip another one. And what you're trying to do is combo those sequences. And look, I am notoriously bad at color puzzles. Like anything that involves color, I don't know why my brain just shuts down. If it's numbers, great, but colors, no. And so I feel like I'm going to be terrible at this game, but that kind of makes me want it more, which is like really an odd. That says something about me. But
you love punishment in a game. You
love
a game that pushes back on you.
I love a challenge. And you know what's even more frustrating? When everybody else is good at it, it's like, this is easy.
Like, this
and
is obvious. This is so organic.
So hard.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of this hobby, is that everyone's brain works slightly differently. And so there's always something that is easy for some and hard for others. So this looks like a game that would be just super simple to get to the table, easy to teach. And then one of those games where you're like, I do not know how someone else did so well at that. Probably Maggie. So I'm looking forward to trying that. That is my number 6, Whispering Woods.
Now, interestingly, when you were describing that, I thought you were going to say Freya Swamp. When you were like, it looks so beautiful, because that also got me. And then also even when, as you were describing, it's like, oh yeah, like I remember seeing like the hex tiles and things like that.
Yes. Oh yeah, that is a good point. That is another game that is coming out of Essen. It didn't make my list, but it almost did. In fact, if it was like my top 12 or something, it probably would have snuck in there. But it has a beautiful cover.
Yes.
But then when you deep dive a little, the cards are actually really quite nice. But for the most part, it's a very kind of abstract hex area majority type thing that's going on.
That's where it sort of lost me. It's like it had me at the cover, and then I started looking deeper into it, and I was like, no, it's not quite my thing.
I looked at it so many times, and I read the rules, and I was trying to get my head around it, but nothing really hooked me about it, but except for the fishing element. That of course I was like, should I just put it in there because of that? But no, I had to be realistic about, my preferences didn't scrape the top 10.
Fair enough. All right, we'll go on to my number 5. I have to keep referring because it's one of those like the title of it is Pilgrims: Curious Adventures. Curious Adventures, and it's actually based on a video game that, and again, it was one of those, the artwork was the thing that got me immediately. I'm like, what is this? I love the illustrations, and it's obviously the same illustrations or the same illustration style as the video game, and the video game is one of those video games where it's like a point and click, but a lot of it is you're collecting cards. And then the cards are the icons. So it's like, oh, great. So this will port really nicely to an actual physical card game. So essentially in this game, you're kind of adventurers wandering through this sort of fairy tale land, connecting or acquiring, meeting new friends along the way, and then getting them, I believe, as cards, and then also getting different items and encountering kind of like different quests and adventures, and then using those the characters and the items in combinations to try and resolve all these different things. So apparently the video game itself, which I only became aware of when I was doing this, when I was going through this research, it plays really quickly. Like it's kind of like one of those mini indie games that it plays like within an hour. So I'm now curious to try it. But the artwork, so obviously, as I've said before, and the illustrations and the cards and every item, and I'm just so intrigued by that. And I tend to love games that are card based. So that's pretty much all I know about this game. And so yeah, that is my number 5, Pilgrims: Curious Adventures.
Okay, now I'm into my top 5, and I'm so excited to talk about my top 5, except for my number 5 is the second crossover. So, and it's actually higher in Maggie's list. So there are only 2 crossovers. If you've been watching a few Essen lists, you might be able to predict what the 2 are that Maggie and I are both excited about. But I'm going to leave it there and go to your number 4.
Ooh, my number 4 is the game Bohemians, which is all about being a bohemian artist at the turn of the century, the 19th century in France. And so just like a good artist, you're going to be deciding, what you're going to do with your day. Am I going to go on a date? Am I going to do some art, make some paintings, make some new acquaintances, maybe go to work? That's probably one of the less desirable, but very necessary, which I love. So this is actually going to be a deck building type game, and very kind of card driven game. And so ultimately what you're going to be trying to achieve is you're trying to get, I think it's 5 kind of career or life achievements. It's sort of a bit of a race, I think, element to that. But yeah, sometimes there's the reality of you have to go to work, otherwise you'll be a starving artist, and you take hardship cards, which are like, if you miss going to work, which is like, well, this is the starving part of being a starving artist. And I believe, just from seeing the images of little bits of cards here and there, the artwork is really, really cool, which makes sense for a game that is so like, art centric. It has actually quite a number of artists involved as part of the creation of this, but they actually haven't really shied away from some of the more R-rated things. And so in terms of I didn't see those cards. So in terms of the things, that the ups and the real downs that can happen of being a starving artist. So yeah, there are some. So this is not like a family-friendly type game. So there are some things that are more like the serious side, but also sometimes the raunchy side of things. So I think I really love how there's a lot of flavor text as well throughout. So the names of the cards and the things that I think it's just going to be a great thematic type experience.
Well, actually, you said thematic, but this almost made my list. It just got bumped out of my list. And the first thing I enjoy is that it's a deck building game that's not in the world of fantasy and there's no battling as such. It's like, I know exactly. We do love deck building as a mechanic, but it does tend to usually go that way. And so I was drawn to it from that. I like the way that you're aligning the symbols and, there's that idea of having to go to work. Like there's some really nice mechanics in there that are going to make it challenging.
Because you're kind of gaining inspiration. It's kind of like one of the currents. Finding a muse and then using that inspiration to achieve things or to kind of complete things.
So that's a good pick.
Yeah.
I mean, your rest of your picks are good, but that one almost made my list as well.
So that is my number 4, Bohemians.
And this worked out well because my number 4 is another deck building game that doesn't have a fighting or fantasy element to it.
I love this for us.
I know, I do too. It is the game Oliver.
Yes. This almost made my list, and then I decided, I know that it's going to be on your list, so I won't include it.
How did you know it was going to be on my list?
Well, because
you just had a feeling.
I had a feeling.
Okay, well, here's one way that you may have known it would have been on my list. It's by designers Costa and Roller, who are Portuguese designers. In fact, Oliver means like the fruit of an olive in Portuguese, I believe. But they make a lot of games about their region, and so cafe. I really want to play actually the one that's like in the sardine tin.
Latas, I think it is.
Yes. I really want to play that, just haven't had a chance
to. Tin fish. You love tin fish.
I really do. Anyway, they also did Stevens as well, the Euro that we really enjoyed. It didn't really go anywhere, but man, we love that game.
It went places in our house.
In our house it did, but it didn't become a big hit of the year, but we really like that game as well. So I like their style and their design. So this game is a deck building game where essentially you are trying to grow olives, you're turning them into olive oil, and then you're going to sell those to the market. And it's a deck building game, but it has a really interesting, almost like follow mechanic where you are placing cards down you're drawing cards up and then you're choosing 2 to place face down into your player board, and then you're going to reveal those. But if other people have revealed the same action, then you're going to get a more powerful action. So it's like you take the sum of yours plus everybody else's, and that's how many times you get to do that thing. So that means that instead of just worrying about your own deck building things, you've got to be keeping an eye on what everybody else is doing, and maybe you're going to change the order of the way you do things so that, because I'm seeing that, hey, maybe Maggie is about to go and do that. I should jump on board with that, and then we can both, benefit. So I like that positive interaction. Nice. There hasn't been a whole lot about this game, but it was on my radar, and I'm really, really excited because of the designers, because of the main mechanics here, and just the theme that I really
love the theme.
enjoy. We went to Greece this year, actually, with my family, and it was so nice to, again, go and see the olive oil production, that process, and just so fascinating how they used to do it as well.
We had a lot of olive oil in all of our dishes.
We had so much olive oil. And then we're like, we're going to live on Greek salad when we go home, and I'm like, I can't eat Greek salad anymore. It's like, I need a break.
It's also not the same. Like, the produce is not the same. It's like, when you're there, it's like everything just comes together. Yeah, you can have Greek salad. You can't
when you go on holiday though, you're like, I'm going to live this way. I'm going to bring this back to my real life.
I did. For a week, I had a Greek salad every day, and then I kind of OD'd on homemade Greek salad with not quite the right or same ingredients.
Anyway, this is neither here nor there. And we're talking about Portugal this game. Yes. Anyway, we are really into the theme, so that's why it is my number 4, Oliver. Oliver. How would it be in Portuguese?
I don't know in Portuguese, even though I'm half Brazilian. But awkward. I never learned to speak Portuguese, but I think it's Oliva. It would be like Oliva.
Oliva. Sounds nice that way.
There you go. All right, so we'll go on to my number 3, which was your number
7.
Yes, which is The Voynich Puzzle by Dani Garcia and produced or published by Salt and Pepper Games, which we tend to really resonate. They have a lot of really cool, quirky titles, and they tend to go with really unique
themes.
Yes. So The Voynich Puzzle is based on the Voynich manuscript, which is this sort of mysterious manuscript that was discovered by Voynich, who was a bookseller, I believe, in the 1912, I think it is, and no one's really been able to decipher, and a lot of people around the globe have been trying to decipher. It's like, is this got some sort of kind of, I think the different areas that it talks about is like botany, astrology, baths.
Oh.
That should always be an area, what do you call it? A section or its own genre. Writing, and then there's sort of recipes, but I think there's also like medical kind of stuff. So it's this sort of collection of
old medieval texts.
Yeah,
that nobody knows what it says.
Yeah, and so it's not clear if it's like, are these some secret wisdom and knowledge, or is this some sort of, like, is it meant to be more like some kind of evil genius's idea of a joke? And so it's a genuine mystery. And so in this game, we're actually going to be trying to help decipher this and see if we can make sense of it. And in a cool way, we all start out with like 2 pages for each of the sections, and you have this little booklet where you kind of fit in the different pages that match to the different sections of the book. And we're kind of collectively, even though it's a competitive game, we're collectively going to be trying to contribute to the knowledge of what this could be, what this could mean. So it's like deciphering the text.
And that's the first thing that got me mechanically, those little books, because they are the action selection system. So they're going to tell you which part of the map or what type of action you're going to be doing. I said map, but actually there's like a different page. This board is this beautiful set of different pages, as well as this like jigsaw puzzle element too. And that's the first thing, is just visually this game is stunning. But then you've got that little booklet. And
guess what it's illustrated by?
Oh, no.
Jorge Tabanero Redondo.
Wow, okay. Well,
Yeah,
that's pretty
there you
amazing.
go. See, another appearance. Hi, Jorge. Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to have to meet this Jorge.
We bite. Yes.
Anyway, so these books, the pages in the little book that you have for your action selection, they can also be upgraded. So you're going to be able to flip them over, and your actions can get more powerful throughout the course of the game
like
as well.
Palm Island style, where you can kind of take the card and like flip
Turn
it
it
the
over.
other way or upside down, or like and so it sort of upgrades the abilities. Yeah, apparently it's really combo-tastic too, like in terms of like the synergies that you end up creating, and this triggers that and triggers that. So yeah, and it looks really cool.
Yeah, I've just never seen jigsaw puzzle pieces as a component in a Euro.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that was really fascinating, the way you get that and then you're going to puzzle it in, and then that has, like, you've got to get certain combos in order to be able to upgrade your cards.
Yeah.
So, I think it looks fascinating.
And designer Danny Garcia, which we really love, right? I really resonated with titles like Arborea. We really loved Windmill Valley.
Yep.
We didn't really connect as much with, like, for example, Barcelona, which is still, really highly regarded. But yeah, it's like a great designer, great intriguing theme. So yeah, I'm keen. So that's why it's my number 3.
And my number 7.
The Voynich Puzzle.
So now my number 3 is the new Stefan Feld game, The Druids of Adora. Now there is so little information about. No one's really talking about it, and of course that's what I had to pick, and now I'm like, I can't find any information about it, but I did see one video, and so I've kind of grasped a little bit about how this works. I don't think you'll resonate with a theme or lack of theme.
Okay.
It's Stefan
This is
Feld.
a running sort of theme with Feld titles.
I know.
But sometimes I really enjoy it mechanically, even though there may be no
Yeah, I think this one you'll really have to like it.
Okay.
Like mechanically, because it doesn't seem like there's a lot of thing. But it is a die worker placement style game. But the game is going to end when any one person runs out of dice. And these dice can do many different things across the board. And there's these circles where, depending on the player count, you can only have one of your colored die in that circle. So you're going to be having to work out how to get to where you want to go, and you've got to pay resources to get there in order to play your die there. And then you're going to have to work out what value you want that die to be. And there's lots of different decisions that have to go into that, as my understanding. But I do like that it feels like it's going to be epically tight. And when you actually don't have the money to go where you need to go, you can kind of get blocked out of doing an action entirely, which means you burn a turn, which is terrible because the game is going to end when someone runs out of their collection of dice. Like, for example, there's another little part of this game where I think it's the sickle action, where if you go out and you place your die there, you've got this like random selection of flowers that runs along the bottom of your board, but it's always in pairs. And so you get to take these pairs, and each one relates to a new engine building mechanic that's going to give you even more points when you go out and do a certain thing on the board. But you've got to use one of those flowers to activate it and another one to say basically like, I'm going to burn this one forever and now I will never have that engine building capacity. Okay. And so you're constantly having to make these really cool decisions about, you know, what's your strategy going to be from here on out, and make good decisions so that you can place the rest of your dice and maximize your points along the way. So for me, it feels like a thinker kind of game. Yeah. I'm just going to say it. It feels really like you're going to have to enjoy that optimization of the puzzle for this one. But it doesn't look super heavy. Okay. So I'm finding my taste more and more these days. I still love a heavy Euro, but I really like when a game is easy to teach and accessible because, you know, we play so many games and we teach so many people all the time. It's nice to just be able to get into it really quickly. And then, you know, the strategy kind of reveal itself and then people want to instantly play it again. You can't really do that when you've spent 4 hours playing a game. And so it looks like more of a midway, but Stefan Feld, always intrigued by the mechanics. This is a really classic feel to it if you like Stefan Feld. So check that out. That is my number 3, the Druids of Adora.
Now, my number 2 is a game called Adamaster by Orlando Sa. Now, this is a solo game. Which again has or it was originally a print and play, I believe, and so now it's sort of been sort of re-implemented as an incredibly stunning artwork looking game. And guess who did the illustrations?
No!
Jorge Tabanera Redondo. So Jorge makes another appearance. It's just like, I'm going to have to get like a little Jorge, like,
This is like, Jorge, if you're out there, please get in touch because we just made you a top 10 list.
Of all the titles that you've had something to do with. So the artwork again was the thing that immediately attracted me to this. Now in this game, it's a solo game. You are the captain of a fleet. And you are trying to, you're sort of sailing through the new world, trying to map the edges of all of the different kind of landscapes that you're encountering. And, you know, you're going to encounter some difficult seas. It's very much a tableau, like hand management tableau building type, tableau management, I think, game. And you're going to be using multi-use cards, and it's all about kind of like icon matching, but you're going to have, obviously, you know, difficult winds and difficult circumstances. And then also that's going to cause issues with the morale of your team, or your, what do you call it, your crew. But apparently it also has a like a campaign mode, like a narrative campaign mode, and from what I hear is excellent. Like the actual narrative of it is quite not only well written but really well integrated. So I'm really, really keen and looking forward to checking that out.
Yeah, look, I'd sent Maggie this link when I first heard about this game. I was like, that has Maggie written all over it, not only because she doesn't have to play with me because it's solo, but because you tend to I didn't even see it. Because you tend to also like survival style games.
Yeah. It's interesting because I mean, it's sometimes varied. Like if it's like a tower defense or one of those, like I don't tend to resonate as much.
No, you versus the elements is fine, sometimes, but having people attack you is less fun.
Yes, correct. So I feel like here the closest thing would be like, you know, if you mismanage your crew's spirits and then you have a bit of a mutiny situation. But yeah, it's pretty much, I think, mostly you versus the elements. And I believe that there's also like growing trauma of your crew as you're kind of going, and so you're having to manage that. So I'm super, super intrigued by that. And yeah, one of my favorite illustrators as well. So what's that to lie? As of 1 month
this
ago.
List. As of this
but actually, no, that's not true, because it's one of those, you know, when you're like, there's an art, like, because even cities and things like that, and barrios, again, like, it's like you clock it from across the room and you're like, what is that? So it's been in the ether.
It's been brewing.
Yeah. So that is my number 2 Adamaster.
Now, my number 2 is, I said there was going to be only one trick-taking / shedding. I think I said trick-taking, but actually this is a shedding game. And this is it, and it's all the way at number 2.
I think I know what it is.
It is Ghost Lift.
Yes! Another great illustrator. This is Sai Beppu.
Sai Beppu, exactly. And the first moment I saw this, I was like, Sai Beppu. But the second thing is, this game, actually originally the artwork was really cute, but it's one of those titles that was at a Tokyo Game Market and disappeared forever and you can't get a copy of it. So now it's being brought back, which is fantastic. And it is a very simple shutter. And
I love the theme.
Yeah. And so the way that this game works is you're going to be basically just playing melds out of your hand in order to get rid of all of your cards, classic Shadow style. but you are in a lift situation, essentially.
In an elevator or lift, depending on what part of the world you are.
And so when you're playing down cards, the cards have arrows on them that either go up or down. So when you start the game, you have to go ascending, so the lift is going up, so you always have to play higher numbers. But sometimes you'll play a card that reverses that order, and now we're going down in the lift, and so we're going to be playing cards that are descending in order. But that's pretty straightforward, right? Anyone can probably pick that up and get straight into it. The most interesting thing about this game, I think, is the scoring mechanic, because depending on when someone goes out or sheds out, whatever cards you have left in your hand, the numbers themselves are going to be recorded on this score sheet. So maybe we've got a 1, 5, and a 7 left. That gets recorded, and next time what I'm trying not to do is be left with a 1, 5, or a 7, because then there'll be another mark against them. And if you get 3 numbers that you've had twice, you will be eliminated. Or if you have one number that you've had 3 times, you will also be eliminated. And so you are really trying to then manage what numbers you're using and time the up and down accordingly, so that you'll be able to get rid of those cards pretty quickly, so you don't get left with them.
I love that. And I don't know if this is a deluxe edition where there's like that sort of tracked with these little ghost tokens. So there's like a ghost token with each with
That's
every
with
number.
The new edition.
Right. And so it's like the first time you get it, it's like a little white kind of ghost, and then when it's the second time you turn it over and it's like a green ghost, it signifies like uh-oh, and then the third time you'd have to turn it over, it's like that you've met it the third time.
But it used to be just a little paper score pad, but
I mean, it would work.
It's been upgraded, and that artwork from Beppu is just like, but how does Beppu and people like Tool as well, how do they have so much range? Like you see something else and you're like, whoa, that's amazing, and then you see their name and you're like, how?
It's just the genres are so
different.
I love those thematically. What this is like you hear that there's this haunted elevator, and you're like, for a laugh, let's go in there, and then you get trapped in it with the ghosts of the residents of that building that used to kind of live there, and you're having to take them to the level that they yearn to be in. Otherwise, you're gonna be stuck in the elevator being haunted by them forever. That's the theme. I love that.
It's a great theme. It's very specific, but it works with the mechanics, and that will make it really accessible. And I love having quirky little games like that where you can just teach, and everyone's just gonna have a good time with that, because it's the mechanics are so simple to grasp with a little twist, which we like. So that's number 2, Ghost Lift.
And now for my number 1, which was your number
5.
Yes. So it is the game Coming of Age, also by Danny Garcia. So second title by...
you only have one designer and one illustrator.
I've got a lot of double ups with the design and illustrate. I like what I like. What can I say? But I love this theme. So Coming of Age is actually, this game is a heavy Euro. Rado kind of likened it to, in terms of complexity, to a Lacerda game. But with this theme of you start out from childhood and you have certain kind of traits and then it's through the experiences and the people that you encounter and the things that sort of happen to you that you shape who you are going to then become through your teenage years and then as an adult. And so the whole thing is you're using dice the dice will actually determine the locations where you end up going to, or there you're going to have the particular experiences that will kind of shape you in one way or another. So I really, really love that. And like in terms of the level of detail of almost like developmental psychology that has gone into it, of the things that shape you as an individual, it's very amusing. Even in terms of like you have characters like the different friends or the people that you can kind of
you
mingle
can build
with.
Relationship and intimacy with.
And like their own traits, and then how much that kind of ends up rubbing off on you, or it's not really a thing that then you take on for yourself, or even like your parents might also then be able to help you, particularly in the earlier stages with going in one direction or another. And then even the types of, so it's all really about the meeting your life goals and aspirations as you kind of progress through the game. I just love that.
I like how the memories are also on cassette tape, which is the second time that we've mentioned cassette tapes now on this video as well. So there's a lot of like overlapping themes that are going.
There's a lot of nostalgia at the moment.
There is a lot of nostalgia.
80s, 90s.
And speaking of nostalgia, this game was number 5 on my list, but I had like quite an interesting journey with this game. I was like really into it, then I was not, then I was really into it again, then not. And, you know, I watched so much content and I read so much about it, and I'm still not sure if the mechanics are going to come together for me, because it has a really, like, it's hard to define what the mechanics are in this game, because you're going out to locations, sure. So there's a little bit of like, okay, yes, you're going to go do that and have an action selection thing. But then there's all these tracks, and it really seems like the game is just an interlocking set of tracks that you're trying to manipulate in order to, you know, reach a certain goal. But it is still a bit, I don't know, what's the word? It's just opaque to me, like how the game works mechanically. But actually, I was watching Rado's video on this, and because it's his favorite genre of games, like, you know, like game of lifestyle, like game, he was so captivating when he was talking about it. And like, I just wanted to say, I'm sure you all have watched Rado at some time, but for me, he is just so incredible the way he can make you feel what he feels when he's playing a game. And like, without getting emotional about it, like being a contributor on his channel, I've just always watched him. I think he is an absolute master, and I probably don't tell him enough, but he is just so brilliant. And
we love you, Rado. We probably don't tell you enough.
We don't tell you enough, but like watching his video again, I was just like he is just amazing at storytelling and really getting to the heart so quickly about what's great about a game. And he did that in that video. So if you're interested in this game, I would encourage you to go watch this video, because I just got lost in it. I was like, whoa, it's just shooting up my list, and it ended up at my number 5.
And there's a lot of also personal trivia that he shares like along the way in terms of like it's like that's he's resonating with little bits and pieces of like, you know, it's like I love that.
Yeah, we love that. So anyway, that was a huge side note. But Maggie's number 1.
That's my number 1, Coming of Age by Danny Garcia.
And my number 5. Now, my number 1 is another Euro. Looks beautiful. It's Orloj, the Prague astronomical clock. And actually, we have been to see this clock back when we visited Prague, because this clock has been there forever. It's been there for a very long time. So this is based on a real astronomical clock. And this clock tells you many of things like the phases of the moon. It has a calendar underneath it. It's like quite a feat of engineering. But along the way, there's been lots of things that have happened to it in order for it to be upgraded. I think there was some wooden figures on it that got burnt at one point. And so along, you know, the city has been very focused on keeping it, you know, up to date, keep it running. And so, you know, obviously it's a big tourist attraction as well. So in this game, you are essentially going to be upgrading this clock, and you're going to be doing that by using this rondelle system, which, you know, I love a rondelle, but it is very similar to the terracotta army rondelle, in where you are turning one rondelle one way and another in the opposite direction in order to get a combination of actions that you want your worker to take. And just like classic Euro style, you're going to be placing workers until you're like, oh no, I'm out of workers, now I've got to spend a turn to bring them all back. But in fact, there are many rondelles throughout this board. There are 6, I believe, in total.
You're going to be in heaven.
So it's a rondelle fest.
And it's a rondelle of rondelles.
It's all the rondelles. But when you look at it, it looks so overwhelming. Like I was like, I don't think I can do it. It just looks like too much. But then apparently it's very streamlined.
Yeah, the iconography jumps out, so it's clear.
Exactly. But all the reviews I've read and watched and everything have basically said, you know, you're just focusing on one part of the board at a time. So it's not as overwhelming, and actually it has a nice flow to it. But there is a lot of astrology symbols. There's lots of Roman numerals, so it just looks really busy. But it also seems very thematic as well. So if you like the inner workings of a clock, there are lots of nods to that as well in the game. And that's it. What more is there to say? There's lots of rondelles. It's a Euro.
Very Euro-y. Like it looks like it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be doing all of the Euro-y things that you know and love, and the kind of even like resources, and then the goals and kind of mini objectives that you can meet along the way.
And it's beautiful. And I believe it's a couple that created this game, and it's their first very big, heavy design. So I just think it looks like they've done a stunning job. And I'm really excited to try this game. It is my number 1 release for Essen. It is Orloj, the Prague Astronomical Clock. And so that is our top 10. Well, actually, we had, how many games did we have overall?
Well, we had 2 overlaps, so it was
Yeah,
like
18 games, plus one of your honorable mentions.
Yes.
So there's a lot there. Man, we would be spending so much money if we were over at Essen. So maybe it's better that we're staying at
this
home.
is a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
We'll just wait for people to bring them over and
tell
then we
you
play everyone's copies of things.
We are going to be so busy in the lead up to the end of the year to work out from all of these games what are our top 10. But that's a later problem. For now, if you're going to the show, have the best time. Can't wait to hear what you pick up. Thank you so much for watching. Like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we'll be back with more board game content soon. But otherwise, bye for now.
Bye.